Hello and welcome back to another video. So today we're going to be talking about one of the topics that I know a lot of people, myself included, have been rather interested in, and that is the balance between ranged and melee in Warlords of Draenor. As time has went on, essentially WoW fights have resulted in a lot more movement and just, well, general mechanical complexity. Now that's been a little bit problematic at times. In Mists of Pandaria, we ended up with this system where essentially ranged had it better. Many ranged classes were very powerful on the move, which basically meant that there wasn't much of a strength for melee. Traditionally, the idea of being a melee class is you can run around the place and still whack stuff at the same time. However, as time went on, they started just adding more mobility to the ranged classes. So for an example, a warlock could be pretty mobile with a lot of their spells, and I personally play a hunter, so I mean, we're kind of the kings of mobility when it comes to classes. Now, the news about Draenor is that they have continued to ramp up the amount of stuff going on in fights. You'll be moving a lot, just as you were in Siege of Orgrimmar and the MoP raids. However, they have rebalanced things quite a bit. They've rebalanced it by paring down on the amount of movement that ranged classes are going to have. To jump back to that Warlock comparison, your Incinerate and Immolate, I think, yeah, Confligate's the instant one. Yeah, they are not going to be able to be used while you are moving, and many classes have had that happen. For an example, the Shaman's Lightning Bolt thingy is now no longer a thing that can be cast while you're moving. So what this means is that when you move into these Draenor fights, there are going to be times when you will have to move instead of cast a spell. Hopefully your class will have a few instants or something like that, but in general, you're going to have to move at the expense of getting out a bit of deeps. Now that's going to, I think, be rather interesting given how many classes have played in MoP, and I'd say that there's going to be a lot of dead DPS who didn't move out of the fire. Now what's going to happen is that this just means that the balance between range and melee will, I think, be a little bit better, because melee, of course, they still are able to move, and assuming the boss doesn't move faster than they do, they're still going to be able to do their full DPS rotation. So that's something that definitely, in comparison to the MoP way of doing things, does benefit the melee players, and overall I think this should lead to a better balance. Though, of course, there are still some inherent benefits to being ranged. So, for an example, if a bunch of adds come, well, if you are a ranged player, they will probably be within your kind of like little radius of attack, whereas if you're a melee player, you'll probably have to run over there. So things like that will still maybe favor ranged a little bit, but I think that stuff will be better than Siege of Orgrimmar, and that totally is a good thing. Now, of course, the flip side of all this is that it does mean that ranged classes are going to feel a little bit different, and it certainly will take a lot of getting used to. Many people are just used to being able to cast whatever the hell they wanted, whenever the hell they wanted, even if they were moving. That's just no longer going to be the case, and I suspect that the initial teething period is really going to be kind of painful for a lot of people. First of all, you won't be able to just react instantly to a boss's ability being near you, and just, run away, because in MoP, that's fine, you could run away, you'd have no real penalty, it wouldn't stop your cast, but what if you're a Warlock at the end of your Chaos Bolt? Do you stay? Do you move? Well, I mean, you should probably move so you don't end up being dead, but there's just going to be a bit of a change up in playstyle for a lot of ranged players. Now, if you are melee, look, stuff's going to stay the same. You're still a melee class, you can still do all your stuff, so really, it's just going to be a better balance. Now, another point to talk about is the one ranged class who is going to be by far the best at moving around the place, and that is the Hunter. The niche of the Hunter class is essentially the ability to do a lot of stuff while you're moving. In fact, you can do everything while you're moving unless you take one specific talent. Though really it doesn't look like a very good talent anyway. So yeah, Hunters are going to be the undisputed kings of mobility. Now this is nice. If you're a Hunter, it means you can do whatever the hell you want while you move. However, when it comes to raids, it does actually mean some things which you could view as a plus or a minus. The plus is that because you can move so much, well, for me it's a plus anyway, it means you're the raid's go-to person. If a mechanic involves running over and clicking on a thing or doing something, you're going to be sending the Hunters off to do that, because the movement will not impact them as much as it will impact, say, a elemental shaman or maybe a warlock or a mage. I suppose some Hunters are going to really enjoy that responsibility, it's maybe going to just bring a more of a unique feel to playing that class, and perhaps some people are not going to like it. We'll just have to see how things pan out. Now, one thing is that a lot of talent trees, of course, do have options for giving you a little bit more in the way of moving while you're casting, or at least for some classes. And then also the Hunters have got a cooldown. It's actually a raid-wide cooldown. They brought back Aspect of the Fox. and I forget the exact numbers, but I think it's like every 3 minutes you can use that, and it will allow your raid to cast while moving for a certain amount of seconds. Maybe it's like 6 or something like that. This is going to be pretty cool if a scary boss mechanic happens that requires you to do a lot of things while, well, a lot of the boss things are going on. So that should add to a little bit of just raid-wide flexibility, because if you can cast whatever the hell you want while still getting away from mechanics, then I suppose it will be a good thing. I can imagine a part of the Hanzok and, crap, I've forgotten the other boss's name. Whatever, the fight with the dudes who jump around the place and make the big hammers fall from the ceiling. Those people. I'll put some footage in. Yeah, I can imagine Aspect of the Fox being really cool in that encounter. So yeah, it's just a broad rebalancing. I think it does bring things back into line, because while it was nice being on, you know, most range classes, just being able to do whatever the hell you wanted, it was a little bit sucky for the melee people. So I think that overall, this is quite good. Another point about ranged versus melee that actually is quite nice for the melee people is that other people's big flashy abilities are not going to really appear as much for you. They're basically toning down other players' spell effects. This is only going to happen in raids and battlegrounds. Now, the reason why this is probably a good thing is because, well, it's generally nice to be able to see your character. If you are in a 25-player raid and everyone is firing off big shiny spells all over the place, it can get to the point where you can hardly even see your own character amongst the light show that's going on. So that's another thing that will actually be a nice little quality of life increase for the melee people. One other thing actually that would be nice, if they could find some way for Hunter's Pet to be like, you know, click-throughable. I actually had this problem on a challenge mode where we basically died twice, because while the tank had to click on something, my pet spider got in front of the tank. Turns out Call Beast can make some really big pets, and yeah, that can get us killed. So maybe they could do something there that would be nice for the just for the melee people, so there's less clutter going on. You know, there's hunter pets, there's things like Stampede, there's Juan for the monks that runs in there, and just in general a lot of sort of click clutter. So maybe that stuff could be improved. But yeah, that's really the situation of things so far. Now, I haven't actually done raids on any of the proper difficulty levels. I did most of both of the raids in Warlords of Draenor's launch on LFR difficulty. That's mainly because I just, you know, I'm not a part of a top-end raiding guild, so it's not like I really had a team to do the formal raid tests with. But of course, even on LFR difficulty, you can see the mechanics of those bosses, and it's very easy to extrapolate forward into what they're going to be like at the harder difficulty levels. So yeah, there will be a lot of moving, and that's going to be quite different for the people who are used to just casting while moving in MoP. But overall, the balance should be a little bit better, and so far that's my assessment on this part of the game. It's going to be strange to get used to, but I suppose overall it is a good balance improvement. Do let me know what you think about this topic though. I know that a lot of classes maybe are not feeling so hot after having a bunch of the cast while move elements removed, so if you are playing one of those classes, especially if you have been raiding in Siege of Orgrimmar, let me know what you think, especially considering that the bosses in Warlords of Draenor are, like many of the Siege of Orgrimmar ones, going to require you to be hopping around the place and in general just moving a lot. Yeah, so that's it for the video, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.